Close your eyes for just a moment and think about your mother's kitchen. The smell of bread toasting, the sound of a knife spreading something wonderful across a thick slice of white bread, and the simple joy of lunch appearing on a plate in front of you without any fuss or ceremony. There was a time in America when the sandwich was an art form practiced in every household, every corner diner, and every small-town lunch counter from Maine to California. Cooks didn't need fancy ingredients or complicated recipes. They needed imagination, a good loaf of bread, and whatever happened to be in the icebox. Some of those sandwiches were beloved classics that everyone knew, but others were wonderfully strange, gloriously unusual creations that existed in their own beautiful corner of American food history. These were the sandwiches that raised eyebrows and then changed minds with the very first bite. They were passed down through families, scribbled in handwritten recipe cards, and served with pride at lunch counters that have long since closed their doors. Today, we're counting down the 12 most unusual American sandwiches that nobody talks about anymore. Forgotten flavors from a simpler time that deserve to be remembered. Number 12. The peanut butter and bacon sandwich. The one that surprised everyone. Before anyone thought to combine sweet and salty in a serious way, American home cooks were already doing it quietly between two slices of bread. The peanut butter and bacon sandwich was a beloved staple in many households during the 1940s and 1950s, particularly in the South and Midwest, where both ingredients were pantry constants. Crispy strips of pan-fried bacon were laid across a thick spread of creamy peanut butter, sometimes with a drizzle of honey or a thin smear of butter on the outside, before the whole thing was pressed in a skillet until golden. The combination sounds surprising at first, but the salty crunch of the bacon against the rich, smooth peanut butter created a flavor that was deeply satisfying in the way only simple, honest food can be. Families made these on lazy Saturday mornings or packed them in wax paper for school lunches, and children who grew up eating them never forgot the taste. Some versions added a slice of banana, a combination that Elvis Presley famously loved, though most families had discovered it long before he made it legendary. The sandwich faded as lunchtime eating habits changed, and the idea of mixing peanut butter with anything other than jelly became unfamiliar to younger generations. But for those who remember it, that first warm bite still lives somewhere in the back of the memory, warm and comforting as a childhood afternoon. Number 11. The tomato sandwich, the classic summer ritual nobody wrote down. There are sandwiches you eat, and then there are sandwiches you experience, and the classic Southern tomato sandwich was firmly in the second category. This was not a complicated creation. 2 slices of soft white bread, a generous spread of full-fat mayonnaise on both sides, thick slices of a just-picked garden tomato still warm from the sun, and a careful shake of salt and black pepper. That was all. Nothing more was needed and nothing more was wanted. In the American South and across the rural Midwest, this sandwich was the unofficial meal of summer, eaten standing over the kitchen sink or sitting on a back porch step, juice running down your chin and onto your hands. The sandwich only worked with a real garden tomato, the kind with genuine flavor and weight, not the pale, firm variety that appeared in stores year-round and tasted of almost nothing. Families timed their gardens around tomato season partly because of this sandwich, knowing those few precious weeks of peak ripeness were something to be celebrated. Do you remember the first tomato of summer coming off the vine and your mother disappearing into the kitchen for just a few minutes before returning with that plate? The tomato sandwich never disappeared entirely, but it became a regional secret rather than a national tradition as supermarket tomatoes replaced backyard gardens and the memory of what a real tomato actually tasted like began to fade. Number 10. The Fluffernutter, the sandwich that came from a jar. In the 1950s and 1960s, somewhere in the kitchens of New England, a combination was born that the rest of the country either loved completely or never quite understood. The Fluffernutter was simple enough in description: peanut butter and marshmallow cream spread between 2 slices of soft white bread. But in execution, it was something closer to a childhood dream made edible. Marshmallow fluff had been a New England staple since the early 1900s, manufactured in Lynn, Massachusetts, and beloved by generations of families who used it in fudge, frosting, and sandwiches with equal devotion. Paired with peanut butter, the combination created something sweet, stretchy, impossibly soft, and absolutely irresistible to any child who encountered it. Mothers packed Fluffernutters in school lunchboxes wrapped in wax paper, and children traded their other food items away happily just to get an extra half. The sandwich became so beloved in Massachusetts that lawmakers once attempted to make it the official state sandwich, a debate that caused genuine and passionate public discussion. Outside of New England, the Fluffernutter remained relatively unknown, a regional treasure that other parts of the country simply never discovered in the same devoted way. Today, it still exists in certain corners of the Northeast, but it has become a curiosity rather than a staple, remembered fondly by those who grew up with a jar of fluff always sitting in the cupboard. Number 9. The Olive and Cream Cheese Sandwich, the ladies' luncheon favorite. There was an entire era of American food culture built around what was called the ladies' luncheon, those elegant midday gatherings where women dressed properly, used their good china, and ate food that was delicate, carefully prepared, and genuinely refined. At nearly every one of these luncheons, from the 1930s through the early 1960s, the olive and cream cheese sandwich made an appearance, often with the crusts neatly trimmed and the bread cut into perfect triangles or fingers. The filling was straightforward but deeply satisfying. Softened cream cheese mixed with chopped green olives, sometimes with a little olive brine stirred in for extra flavor, spread generously on thin white bread. The combination of creamy, tangy, and slightly salty created a flavor profile that was subtle enough for polite company, but interesting enough to be genuinely memorable. Women requested these at church socials, bridal showers, and bridge club afternoons, and the recipe was considered a social asset worth protecting. The sandwich appeared in countless handwritten recipe boxes throughout the country, often labeled simply olive sandwiches in neat cursive script beside the cream cheese pie and the deviled eggs. As the formal luncheon culture faded in the late 1960s and casual dining replaced structured social eating, this elegant little sandwich went with it. It became a relic of a more formal time, surviving only in the recipe cards of grandmothers and the memories of women who once wore white gloves to lunch. Number 8. Overlooked during its march toward standardization. It never disappeared entirely. The Brown Hotel still serves it today, but it lost its place in the broader American sandwich conversation somewhere along the way. For those who have eaten a proper hot brown even once, it is impossible to understand how the rest of the country managed without it. Number 7. The Deviled Ham Sandwich, the spread that came in a little can. For generations of American families, the small red can with the little devil on the label was a pantry staple as reliable and familiar as Campbell's soup or a box of saltines. Underwood deviled ham had been sold in America since 1868, making it one of the oldest branded food products in the country. And for decades, it earned its place in school lunches, picnic baskets, and quick weekday suppers without apology. The spread was made from finely ground ham mixed with spices and mustard, with a slight heat and tang that set it apart from plain sandwich meats. Mothers would spread it on white bread with a little mustard or mayonnaise, add a leaf of iceberg lettuce, and produce a lunch that was ready in under 2 minutes and eaten with genuine enthusiasm. The deviled ham sandwich appeared at church suppers, family road trips, and summer picnics, traveling well in wax paper and tasting just as good at the end of a hot afternoon as it did when freshly made. There was something deeply comforting about that little can. It represented readiness, practicality, and the particular American talent for turning simple ingredients into something satisfying. The product never completely vanished from store shelves, but younger generations largely passed it by in favor of fresh deli meats and more elaborate sandwich options. For those who remember prying open that little can with the key on the side, the memory carries an entire childhood within it. Number 6. The Banana and Mayonnaise Sandwich, the Southern combination that confused everyone else. If you grew up in certain parts of the American South, particularly in Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia, the banana and mayonnaise sandwich was not unusual at all. It was simply lunch, as normal and expected as the sun coming up each morning. If you grew up anywhere else, the combination sounds almost impossible, a culinary misunderstanding that someone surely meant to correct. But those who know this sandwich defend it with a quiet conviction born from decades of genuine love. Soft white bread, a layer of Dupes or Hellmann's mayonnaise spread to the very edges, and sliced ripe banana arranged in careful rows. That was the whole of it. Yet somehow the creamy richness of the mayonnaise against the sweet softness of the banana created something that worked in ways that defied logical explanation. The sandwich was particularly popular during the Great Depression, when bananas were affordable and mayonnaise could stretch a simple ingredient into a filling meal. Families passed the tradition down not because they had to, but because they genuinely loved it, and children raised on banana and mayonnaise sandwiches grew into adults who still quietly made them on afternoons when nobody was watching. The rest of the country never quite caught on, treating the combination as a regional eccentricity rather than the small, sincere pleasure it truly was. Do you remember someone in your family making the sandwich and feeling like you'd discovered a secret the rest of the world simply hadn't figured out yet? Number 5. The horseshoe sandwich, Springfield's greatest secret. In Springfield, Illinois, there exists a sandwich so ambitious, so thoroughly committed to the idea of abundance that calling it simply a sandwich feels almost disrespectful. The horseshoe was created in 1928 at the Leland Hotel by a chef named Joe Schweska, and it was designed from the very beginning to be impressive. A thick slice of toasted bread topped with a choice of meat, usually ham in the original version, completely covered in a sharp Welsh rarebit cheese sauce, and then surrounded by a generous pile of deeply fried French fries. The name reportedly came from the shape of the ham slices, which resembled a horseshoe, and the fries were said to represent the nails. Whatever the origin of the name, the result was a plate of food that required full commitment and rewarded that commitment generously. Springfield residents treated the horseshoe with the kind of civic pride usually reserved for sports teams and historical monuments, debating which local restaurant made the definitive version and passing strong opinions on the matter down through families. The sandwich expanded over the decades to include different meat options. Burgers, chicken, and even breakfast versions appeared, but the essential spirit of generous excess remained constant. Outside of central Illinois, the horseshoe remained almost completely unknown, a regional masterpiece hidden in plain sight in the middle of the country. Those who discovered it on visits to Springfield rarely forgot it, and many made return trips specifically to eat it again. Number 4. The chow mein sandwich, New England's most surprising creation. In southeastern Massachusetts and Rhode Island, tucked into the food culture of mill towns and working-class neighborhoods, there existed for decades a sandwich that the rest of America never knew about and would likely have struggled to believe. The chow mein sandwich consisted of a soft hamburger bun, not toasted, just soft, filled with a generous ladle of American-style chow mein, the thick, slightly starchy, gravy-based noodle dish that bore little resemblance to its Chinese origins but had been fully adopted by New England's immigrant communities. The combination of soft bread and savory noodle filling sounds improbable, but in the towns that loved it, the chow mein sandwich was working-class comfort food of the highest order, available at small lunch counters and social club canteens for a price that almost anyone could afford. The tradition grew from the large Chinese American communities that established themselves in Fall River and New Bedford following waves of immigration in the early 20th century, and their food became woven into the local culture in this wonderfully unexpected way. Families ordered chow mein sandwiches at the end of long work weeks, packed them in containers for trips to watch local baseball games, and introduced them to every visitor who came to town as definitive proof that their corner of New England had something unique worth tasting. The sandwich still exists in a handful of restaurants in southeastern Massachusetts today, a living fossil from another era of American food history. But beyond those few faithful establishments, the chow mein sandwich remains one of the country's most thoroughly kept regional secrets. Number 3. The pimento cheese sandwich, the spread the South called gold. There are entire books written about Southern food, thick volumes filled with recipes and memories and cultural history, and in nearly every one of them, pimento cheese receives the reverence it deserves. Called the caviar of the South by those who love it most, pimento cheese was a spread made from sharp cheddar, cream cheese, jarred pimentos, and mayonnaise, mixed together by hand in every household to a slightly different recipe that each family believed was the definitive version. Spread thickly between two slices of soft white bread, sometimes with the addition of a little hot sauce or sweet pickle relish, the pimento cheese sandwich was the cornerstone of Southern lunches, picnics, social clubs, and family gatherings for generations. Every grandmother had her recipe written somewhere private, adjusted over decades of making it, and the act of making it correctly was considered a genuine domestic skill worth passing down. The sandwich appeared at the Augusta National Golf Club so reliably that it became associated with the Masters Tournament, giving pimento cheese a moment of national visibility every April that it hadn't otherwise managed to achieve. Outside the South, pimento cheese remained largely unknown until relatively recently, a geographic mystery that delighted Southerners and genuinely surprised everyone else who tasted it for the first time. The homemade version, mixed fresh the morning it would be eaten, was something entirely different from any commercial approximation, and families who grew up with that version understood something about food and love and place that is difficult to put into words. Number 2. The fried bologna sandwich, the lunch that cost almost nothing and tasted like everything. During the lean years of the Depression and throughout the practical decades that followed, American families discovered that a thick slice of bologna, dropped into a hot skillet and cooked until its edges curled up and its center blistered and browned, became something almost magical. The fried bologna sandwich was not a delicacy or a restaurant item. It was home food, kitchen food, the kind of meal a mother made when the budget was tight and time was short, and she still wanted to put something warm and satisfying on the table. The bologna would sizzle in its own fat, the center puffing up before it was pressed down with a spatula, and then it would be slipped onto soft white bread with yellow mustard and sometimes a slice of American cheese melting over the top from the residual heat. The combination was salty, smoky, slightly charred at the edges, and profoundly comforting in the way that only truly humble food can be. Children came running when they heard that sound from the kitchen. That particular sizzle was unmistakable and promised something wonderful. The fried bologna sandwich was working-class food worn with genuine pride, and in states like West Virginia and Tennessee, it became a regional institution, celebrated rather than apologized for. Number 1. The penny candy store sandwich, the one that existed only in memory. Our number 1 spot belongs not to a single specific sandwich, but to an entire tradition, the counter sandwich, made fresh at the soda fountain or small lunch counter by someone who knew exactly how you liked it. These were the sandwiches of American Main Street, built by countermen and lunch ladies who remembered your name, knew whether you wanted extra pickles, and understood that how a sandwich was made mattered as much as what went into it. They were served on thick china plates with a handful of potato chips and a small paper cup of coleslaw, and they cost 35 cents or less at their peak. The bread was always fresh, the fillings were always generous, and the atmosphere, the spinning stools, the radio behind the counter, the smell of coffee and toast and warm soup made every sandwich taste better than it would have anywhere else. These